Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And to hear a second set of instructions too is your plight tonight. This is the Morrison County Board of Adjustment, and I have a few items to cover before we get started. Please sign in at the door if you have not already done so. There you will also find a detailed handout of step-by-step procedure we will follow tonight. If you wish, you can take one. Please put any electronic devices on silent mode. Also, please note that all testimony is being recorded for the record. Members of the Board of Adjustment are appointed by the County Board of Commissioners with one member from each of the 5 commissioner districts. Land Services staff is here to assist the Board of Adjustment with its duties. The task of the Board of Adjustment is to consider requests for variances and appeals from an order, requirement, or decision made by a county zoning official in accordance with state law and county ordinance. Each request is considered on its own merit. The burden of proving a practical difficulty rests with the applicant. If a variance is granted, it is granted to the land, not to the landowner. There's a protocol for how we will proceed tonight. For each variance request on the agenda, we will hear a staff report, hear testimony from the applicants, then the board will discuss and gather more information as needed. Next, I'll ask if there's anyone in the audience wishing to speak to the request. I will ask each party to come to the podium, state their name and address for the record, and give their testimony. Please be as factual as possible and direct all statements and questions to me. After testimony is complete, I will close the public hearing portion of the process. The board will then review and discuss the case in terms of our finding of fact criteria as required by Minnesota statute and county ordinance. We will have a series of votes, discuss whether conditions be made, have final motion to approve or deny the request based on those findings. After this final vote on your request, you may leave if you wish. Well, there's only one item agenda on the dock for tonight, and that is BS Storage, Ben Schultz. If the applicant would come up and take your seat. This is 2149 Highway 27, Swanville. It's an application for a variance to construct a storage shed within the setback of the right-of-way, located in Caldrum Township. If you'd state your name for the record.
Ben Schultz.
Okay. And the staff report.
Yep, Mr. Chair, again, variance to construct a commercial storage unit within setback to the right-of-way, located in Section 20 of Caldrum Township. The ordinance reference for this request is 604.9, and that requires a 40-foot setback from road right-of-way. Here's a plat map of Caldrum Township, and the red dot is the location of the parcel. And then here's the request received from the applicant. And a site drawing also provided by the applicant. Then here's some aerial views of the property. And then here are some photographs taken at the site visit. This is a 6.75 acre parcel, and the property is on the corner of 2 state highways. Highway 27 running east and west, and State Highway 28 running north and south. Access to the facility is off Highway 27, utilizing the existing entrance. A conditional use permit was granted to the property in 2015 to establish a mini storage facility with up to 5 buildings. Since the issuance of the conditional use permit, the applicant has had discussion with MnDOT regarding the wide right-of-way claim they had at the corner of Highway 27 and Highway 28. And this is what that right-of-way claim looked like at that time. MnDOT agreed to reduce their right-of-way and deeded the excess to BS Storage LLC. And then here is the document that was provided. And then here's the updated right-of-way layer. And then here's just a before and after. The applicant has built 5 buildings and would like to build 1 more. This will ultimately require an amendment to the original conditional use permit. The sixth building would not meet setback from the reduced State Highway 27 right-of-way. The applicant is proposing to place the sixth building 20 feet from the updated right-of-way. A representative of MnDOT submitted a comment in support of the request. That was included in your packet, and it's here as well. The property across Highway 27 to the north is zoned commercial. The 12 Mile Tavern is currently operating on the property. The property across Highway 28 to the west is zoned commercial. An apartment complex is operating on that property. The other surrounding property is zoned agriculture, and agricultural uses are established on the parcels. And then here's just a view of the area with the zoning layer on. The applicable comprehensive land use plan goals is agriculture, goal A1 and A2. Local economic development, goal C1, objective 8, goal C2. And under C2, objective 1, 2, and 4, 7, and 19. 15 notices were sent and no comment was received prior to the public hearing. And then here are your finding of fact and decision questions, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you, Amy. Does the applicant have anything to add to that?
No, she did a pretty good job.
Gosh, we gotta do some controversy here, else we're gonna be out of here in 5 minutes. You don't want that.
I do.
Okay, does anybody on the board here have a question for the applicant or staff?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Mark.
okay, first, the date was it Dave, Brent, and I were out there on Friday, what was that, the 29th, I believe it was,
Yep.
to view it. And you took some
And Mark,
picture,
hold on a second. And John was out there at 11 o'clock, and Clint was out there on Sunday. And so we all viewed the property,
Sure.
so.
Yeah, sorry I wasn't able to make it.
that's fine. So now, back to the pictures, if you would back up to where the red flag was, Dave was taking some pictures, and it looked like there was a drain or whatever, explain what that's about there, and where does that water go, or what it is?
Yeah, that drain tile goes down the west side of the shed, or no, south side of the shed, and then outlets in the wetland down there.
So it follows the rest of the storage facilities, you're saying?
Yep. So
Okay.
that kind of, yeah, helps
On the south side.
on the south side.
Oh, so it goes just straight south? Okay, so, yeah.
Yep.
So it goes down to the ditch there, basically?
Yep.
Okay, got you on that. No, I was thinking more to the west, but that, yeah, it is a short piece then, that would be. So the next question I have, and I know personally some intersections that numerous accidents have happened because of observation with Minnesota, or the state saying, hey, they're okay with this. And this letter, it kind of surprises me and to that. And if you could elaborate a little bit more why they had no problem. And there, we have no representative from the state here to explain that, correct?
No, Mr. Chair.
Sure, yeah, I guess the way they described it to me is that they they kept the 100-foot setback for that, and that's, anything outside of that, they said they don't care what we do. Their calculations for what it needs to be for a safe intersection, I guess, is just inside the right-of-way there. If it was more, they said they would have kept more.
Okay. And why I'm thinking about it, they said know a few intersections that buildings, fields were put in there, and it was obstructions and accidents were created, and I didn't want to say, hey, give my stamp of approval, and all of a sudden we have a fatality on the hand, and I'm guessing you don't want that either because of observation, and it kind of concerns me with 28 and 27 intersecting at that point.
Right.
And the way people
Yep.
drive nowadays makes me a little bit nervous with that.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't want anything bad to happen either, and
So the next question is, you're asking for a 20-foot setback release from what, that. If we didn't grant it, are you planning on making it smaller? Or you have a secondary idea, or plan on that?
yeah, I guess it would have to be smaller. I think it would take off like, I'm not sure, I think it would be about 50 feet of building. Is how much you would lose, without a, variance permit.
Okay,
So I just did, some measuring and, with right of way and the setbacks, and everything, you'd lose like an acre of land in that corner would be unusable.
okay. Thank you very
Yep.
much.
Okay, thanks, Marv. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead, John.
so you said it's about 50 feet of building, so what's the total square footage that's going to be passed, or what you're gonna need the variance for? Do you know?
50 feet of building would be, I believe about 50 feet would be needed, or without the variance.
Mr. Chair. What are the dimensions of the building you want to build?
Oh, with the, 45 by
144.
144.
By 144, and so you would need to shorten that up by 50 feet?
Yeah, I was thinking the guy could get a 45 by 96 in without it.
Okay, so it would go down to a 45 by 96.
Yep.
Okay.
So of that 50 feet, what kind of economic impact does that have to you?
Quite a bit, because I maybe screwed up and went about this the wrong way. Obviously I bought the land back from MnDOT, then I paid, I think I'm answering this right. Then I paid the gas company to move a gas line there. Not realizing how little room I would have there for building envelope, so, try to recoup some of them costs, it would,
Plus the building, right?
right.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair? How many, so your 45 by 144 would be how many units?
That would be 24 units.
Okay, and 45 by 96 would be how many units?
That would be 16.
Okay,
So 8 units, right?
8 less units.
Okay. So what does 8 units get you on a monthly basis?
So the average size unit would be like a 12 by, well, if you split the building in half, 22 and a half, 12 by 22 and a half, that'd be about $100 a month per unit. So it'd be, what did we say, $800 a month.
Okay. So I'm still confused on the total square footage that is needed for the variance on this one, just because of the goofy angle on that. I can't do math. Can somebody help me?
So let's take a peek. I can, let me go on to Beacon and I can pull up. Give me just a second to do that.
So I get the 50 by 45, right? Is what he was referencing, so you get the 45 by 96.
You're just wondering how much of the square footage would be encroaching?
Well, yes, and then that in addition to, that's all wetland, right? Mm-hmm. You couldn't go that way, because that's probably already violating a setback. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to get a sense for, okay, I have 200 or however many 100 feet of storage building right now, and we're talking about encroaching about 50. Like, what's the actual percentage of square feet that we're asking for this variance for? Is it significant?
It's 20 feet of encroachment, correct?
Correct.
Because if it's 20 feet on encroachment,
So theoretically, you'd have to cut off 20 feet of building.
instead of 50,
Correct.
which means you're only losing 2 units. Or 4 units, right? No, 2 units. Because that's 20 feet, 12 by 12, right? Oh yeah, 4 units. So it's half of what he was saying. I'm not trying to get into the too minutia of the details here, but some of this matters.
Yeah, Mr. Chair,
Go ahead. Dave.
just
Go
one
ahead.
thing for us to think about too, if we look at this picture that's up here right now, if you look at the other 2 corners on the west, they have a lot less setback, right?
Yeah.
So when I first looked at this thing, it's like, okay, that was my first thought. You're gonna pull up, them buildings are gonna block some sight, right? But at 45 feet from 27, in the other 2 corners, they just took extra setback for some other reason. The letter states that that isn't gonna hurt the site. If he was encroaching to the north into that right away, I would say that would be a little more detrimental than to encroaching into the west line.
So, Mr. Chair, there's about 13 feet between these buildings, so I'm accounting for 13 feet. And then for this building to start, so the proposed building would be 144, and then that would be up to that 20-foot line, and of course, this is kind of at an angle. The 40-foot setback then would push this, just to give you an idea of kind of, and then I can do square footage if you'd like, here. Then this essentially wraps our arms around the square footage. Well, and I would go 40 because it's going to be 40 feet wide. So here. It's ballpark, about 1,600, 1,700 square feet.
Okay.
About 40 by 40.
Does that answer your question? Is that what you were looking for?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
So just what I was saying in my observation is if we look at the other side of 28, them corners, these 2 corners have the standard 45 or whatever, or not the standard 45 feet. I should just say just the standard right away. So what makes this east corner and the northeast corner any different than them 2 west corners? For sight view, for turning, because if you're coming from the north and turning, you're the same as coming from the south and turning right, It's just they took extra right away because maybe at one time they wanted to make a different turn there or something. But when I read this letter and it says that, because at first I was thinking the same thing Marv was, that you put a building right there, it's gonna block when people come up there. But if it's safe enough on the other 2 corners to be able to see down that way, I can't see why putting another building there. Basically, we're encroaching on the west side more than we're sure there's some in that corner, but that ain't, you're already stopped, you got all that right away to see. So that's just what my observation is, so.
Okay, thank you, Quinn.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Brent.
question for Ben. Looking at this photo that's up here now, when I was out there on Friday, I was curious to what actually was on that footprint of that gravel pad before.
I don't think I ever really had anything out there. Just gravel. I got a good deal on some granite at the time, and so I just bought some granite and was figuring maybe I'd put a building there someday, so could utilize that in the future too. Then once,
Okay.
if
I I've driven by there a number of times, and when I stood on the land, I thought maybe there was something there that I missed, and I was curious if there was ever a structure there before.
No,
Okay,
no,
all right, thank you.
yep.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So Brett, Ben, that Connex box or whatever that's there, is that gonna get moved or gone? Or
Yeah,
what's the
yep.
plans with that?
Yep, yeah, I gotta get that out of there.
Okay, so that's your intentions to get that out of there?
That's my intention. I
Okay.
have some building supplies and stuff in there. But yeah, I just gotta get that out of there. That's,
Mr. Chair?
Question, oh, go ahead, John. Oh, Marv, sorry.
Okay, so you were talking about the granite that's there, and it looks like you've got a fairly decent pad. What was your intent? Yeah, it looks like there was, Dave took a shot down a picture, and it looks like you've got nice steps. No, good setup for not having any erosion. Looks like you've got things laid out quite well there. And was your plan to keep this one step higher, or was your plan to level this down a bit, or what was your plan for this building?
yeah, so, my plan is to step it up again. And, because, yeah, to be able to get drainage and, you're not allowed to touch anything inside the right of way, so to enable to get it to drain to the ditches, we'll have to build this shed up.
So as you look at this picture now, between buildings, there's nice little jogs down, and there's no erosion. It looks like it's well maintained and all. So this other one, it looks like this slab or this concrete is a bit higher, and it looks like there's gonna have to be some excavating done, but you're just planning on just leveling it off and putting it on top. That, by your remarks, am I correct?
Well, there's a lot of topsoil up there, so there'll be a fair amount of grading work that needs to be done. There's probably a couple feet of topsoil, so we'll need to take that out, and there's, I don't know, there used to be a free right curve there, coming off 28 onto 27, so I'm not sure what MnDOT did. I think they just buried a bunch of stuff there. There's bit chunks and all sorts of stuff in there, so we'll have to dig that out to be able to put a shed on some better fill.
So you can't answer me how much higher, but it'll be a step up.
Oh, sorry, probably 2 feet higher.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
yep.
To clarify that, it's 2 feet higher than the next building to the east,
Yes, yep.
okay? Back to your explanation of the, that drain system that you've got. If we could go back to the right-of-way, yeah, can you point out on there, yeah, if you could enlarge that a little bit, that'd be helpful. Could you go up and point out where that drain is right now and where it will go? You said it was on the south side
Sure.
and goes down to the wetlands.
And we might
And
cap
what
that
will-
off. I don't know if we're gonna try to utilize that, or.
I mean, it's right in the, where you're planning to have a building.
Here's the drain inlet, and then it wraps around, comes all the way down. I think it comes out somewhere right about there.
And that's all clean water, that's all just rainwater.
Yes, yep.
And your new plan, when there's a building on top of that, is just have the inlet somewhere else, or?
The building wouldn't go on top of it, but we might close off the inlet and just have it be for subsurface drainage. I'm not sure.
Just a drain?
I'm not
Okay.
sure, yeah, because if you put the shed there, the water should shed away to the ditches, so.
Okay. What are your plans for driveway to access the new storage units? I assume that has to be accessed from the south and from the north? There'll be units on both sides?
Yep, it'll be just like the other ones that are out there, units on both sides.
So will they come in from the east end to get
Yep,
to the south side? And
yep, we'll
And they'll
use the
just-
existing entrance. and-
so no traffic around the west end of the building?
Right, nothing.
How will you prevent that from happening? Because I don't think
Or-
that's the intent of MnDOT, to allow traffic around the west end of the building, the new building,
Well, traffic will go around the building.
around the west end of the building?
Yep.
Okay,
But
I
there'll
thought you
be-
just told me it wasn't going to.
Sorry, I meant.
Why don't you go
no
up there and
new-
point that out,
No
please?
new entrances. Off.
No new entrances, correct, okay. And show the flow of the traffic up there?
So the flow of traffic come through here and then wrap around the shed.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
Can I ask a
go ahead, Amy.
do you anticipate then that cars will actually be in the right-of-way as they go around that building?
I don't, if, 20 feet, but then quickly at that angle, there's plenty of room to make the loop around the shed with what I have planned,
Okay.
and them to stay out of the right of way. Maybe I would need to put a fence up to keep them, out of there.
That's another distraction to the public out there too, as they're driving. I'm not sure what intent MnDOT had. They were only addressing the building, not the traffic around the building.
Sure, yeah.
Okay,
Mr. Chair,
go ahead, John.
how many cars are you getting out there on a monthly basis, and do you know on average what time they're showing up? Do you have a camera out there or anything?
I have cameras out there. Not sure how good I watch them. But I don't think it's very many cars a day. 10 cars a day, maybe on average, I guess, would be my guess. It's not very many.
So how many total units there right now?
There's 88 units, I believe.
So if you got 10 cars a day, you're talking about 1 in 8. The extra storage facilities on that end, I know I'm turning it into another math problem, but it is.
But potentially driving in the right of way.
Yeah. It'd be bad for a semi. I don't know about a,
I think he's off on his numbers. I don't think it's 10 a day. I think it's probably 10 a week because I've never seen anybody there whenever I drove by.
Yeah, it's not very often.
Was at the 12 mile, right?
Then I wouldn't be able to see anything.
Get a better seat at the bar, yeah. All right, where are we at now? Who's in charge of this meeting? So what's your practical difficulty? You have to prove a practical difficulty to us. It's not up to us to come up with that.
So, our practical difficulty, I believe, would be the shape of right-of-way that MnDOT created when they sold back the other right-of-way they did to me. Like I said, I talked to MnDOT, and they said they kept that 100-foot sight corner to keep obstructions out of the line of sight of people at the stop sign. But they said they would have no problem with what we have, or even if we went right up to the right of way with something. But the odd shape creates, if I measured right with the way I was measuring things, it creates up to an acre of unusable land for us. So we're requesting the variance because we think it's a good way to utilize the land we have and minimize impacts in the county, or of the county's intent. You know, with not having somebody take away ag land somewhere else, or something like that. So we're trying to, you know, keep the county's mind in, or the county's best interest in mind by, you know, the aesthetics kind of fits what's going on there. A new building would matches the commercial, or, you know, there's other commercial buildings in the area. And, yeah, I'm trying to meet the setbacks. You know, I think the intent would be to have a regular setback. Just that one corner is all that I'm trying to encroach on the site corner, but hopefully that answers your question.
Good.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
Question for Amy. Amy, could you pull up, or even on this slide, if you could give me a measurement from the corner of the existing building out and kind of lay in what he's got proposed there with this new DOT right-of-way?
Yeah, I'm gonna go over to Beacon here
You're saying with the road?
with the right-of-way.
With the right-of-way, with
Revised
the new
right-of-way.
right-of-way.
Yeah, so
after.
I've got that here. Okay, so let me take this, let me clear this. Okay, so you would like a measurement from the corner to the
Yeah,
right-of-way?
and just a quick question too, right there where you have the cursor
Yeah.
now, is there plan 10 feet or 13 feet between the buildings?
12 feet is the
12 feet,
plan.
okay.
Okay,
So
So-
12 feet out plus 144.
all right, so we've got, my hand is not, so that's 12 and a half right there between. And then and then you want 144 feet?
Correct.
Okay.
Close enough.
That's as good as it's gonna
And then, so there still is some room from the end of that building out to where that right-of-way is there,
It's about
10 feet.
10 feet or so.
How wide is the road that he's got right now off that building?
16?
Could you clarify that? That's the right-of-way that you're showing there, so it's
The
only,
pink. The pink is the right-of-way.
okay, so this is showing he's only 10 feet from the right-of-way, rather than 20 feet, which is what he's proposing,
Correct.
okay? And he needs 40 feet to meet ordinance.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys, when you're out there, I don't know, probably went off what I had. But I had measured it out, and then the signpost was each corner of the right-of-way that MnDOT staked out. So what I had measured out there was, I measured to that corner and then lined up where that, from post to post, because those posts are right on the corners, and that I came up with 20, but, so I'm not sure.
So if this variance were to be granted, who would be the official third party who would set the post there so that we know it was correct?
MnDOT, I suppose.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead. Ed.
what we would do is we would ask MnDOT to stake their right-of-way, and we would take the measurement from MnDOT's staked right-of-way, whatever it, so if the variance was granted to be 20 feet from the road right-of-way, then that's where it needs to be.
And with all this in mind, this is a first step. If you, whether you pass this step or not, you'll be going for a CUP adjustment, whether it's for a 144-foot building or a 124-foot building.
Correct.
Okay. So probably going to have to answer these questions again because the same word here.
Right.
I think that's a pretty big deal, that driving around and how much room you have there.
Yeah.
And
I wouldn't leave, or, 20 is the minimum. I mean, 10, like what has drawn there, that's not enough, so I wouldn't try pushing for something like that.
yeah, and that's, 20 is all that MnDOT has signed off on for the building
Right,
and not necessarily for a driveway.
yep.
Okay? I assume you could change the flow of your traffic so it was dead end here and go back? Same thing on the other side?
Dead end it, and
As in, they wouldn't have to go any farther west than the end of the building, the last unit? Then they just go back out?
I think I would have to divert them or around the building. I
Okay,
don't think there'd be enough room to have them turn around there.
yeah, then you probably need more room, yeah. Okay, others, Yeah. Other thoughts? The, that portable storage shed that's there now, is that permitted, and does that meet setbacks?
I don't believe it's permitted. I don't think I have a permit on file.
Okay. Have there been any infractions over the years since,
No.
no? Yeah, I was on the board when you got the original CUP.
Sure.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead,
we
Amy.
Maybe see if there's any public comment?
Yes, that's what we're ready for. Okay, is there any public comment at this time? I'll ask 3 times. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? If no public comment, we'll close to public input and get on with our deliberations here. Are we ready for the questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. I guess I'd have one last question for the applicant. Also, we have one criteria question, the last one that you've answered. Does the practical difficulty involve more than economic considerations? This is all about you being able to have a bigger building and derive more income from it, and asking for a variance to do that.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the questions. We'll start out with Marv tonight, if that's okay, Marv.
Okay, I'll do my best.
Is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? Marvin?
Well, I think this has been rezoned. It was ag, yeah. And has this been, it still is ag? Okay. So it's been allowed before in ag. How much of this is supporting ag in an area, I don't know. I think it's supporting more of the recreation area and that. So, and that end, probably not, but is it utilizing the piece of property in a good manner? Yes, I do believe that. Is it also, you have the state of Minnesota that sold you the piece of property that okayed this here, and they were fine with it, so that makes it in harmony. But it's still, we beat up the intent that, about the safety concerns, and I'm still not totally sold on them yet. That's the best I can answer that at this moment.
Oh, thank you, Marv. Anybody else like to add to that?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to state that, yes, we allow storage units in ag, so it's in harmony in that part of it. We got 2 of the other corners are commercial, so it's kind of that little junction there for commercial. And I just disagree a tick with Marv on his thing if it's an ag, to me, this protects ag more because there's already storage units there. And if we allow one more storage unit there where there already is some, I think that protects more ag land from another storage building going up somewhere else. So I think, looking at what the problem is with the right-of-way and stuff, take that out of there. I think, yes, this request is in harmony with the general purposes of the intent of the land use ordinance.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Amy.
I just want to clarify because I think we're concentrating on whether or not an additional storage unit should be there rather than the placement of it 20 feet from the road right of way. So all we're looking at today is a structure 20 feet from the road right of way. At the conditional use permit, that's when you're going to talk about whether it's reasonable, whether you're taking ag land out of production, whether all of that. So essentially what you want to be looking at for this particular question is what is the purpose of a setback from a right of way? And given the purpose of a setback from the right of way, asking for an encroachment in that, is that still in harmony with the intent of that standard? So I guess that's the lens that you need to look at this request through, only whether a building, regardless of what it is, should be 20 feet from the road right of way rather than 40. So I don't know if you want to try that again, or try answering that again, please.
Well, that's the way I was going to address that question. It's not about whether it's going to be a building there or not, because there is going to be a building there. It's whether it's going to be 40 feet and meet the requirement, or if we're going to allow a 20-foot encroachment. Personally, I don't think it meets the intent of the ordinance. I don't think ordinance is there for us to just, give you more building. I think we're going to have trouble answering some of the other questions, but this one in particular, encroachment of 20 feet on the right of way, just so you can have a bigger building, I don't feel is with the intent of the ordinance. And I know variances are really from the strictest interpretation of the ordinance, but yeah, this is all your own personal plans, your own personal income, has nothing to do with the land, and the ordinances or variances are given to the land, not to the applicant. So, yeah, I'm going to have to say, answer no on this question, that's not the intent, of the ordinance to allow encroachments on setbacks.
Mr. Chair, I
Go
agree.
ahead, John.
Agree with a good chunk of what you recommended there, minus every applicant that comes in here and asks for a variance, it's going to be personal. Nobody's doing this on behalf of Morrison County encroaching on setbacks. But this specific request and how the right-of-way is structured, the building request, I think, is in harmony. What we left out and forgot to consider was the additional road that is running through that, even if there's, what we looked at, 10 feet on there. But I do think the request itself is in harmony with the general purposes for this ordinance.
Okay, thank you, John. Anybody else on number one? Remember, variances are given to the land, not to the applicant. Number two is the applicant propose and use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance. Brent, would you start us out?
Sure. I think he's proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner. I mean, we're looking at the 6.75 acres that's already been separated off and is being utilized under a conditional use permit now for the storage sheds. What we're looking at is a 20-foot setback encroachment. which really is already being utilized by parking and turning and driving right now. This is, that corner is kind of bit off just a little bit differently than most land that we look at from the north, east, south, and west. This has kind of got an angle that you're going to have to measure off of, and so he's trying to propose a plan to put something in that encroaches on that setback, and I think it's reasonable what he's planning to do there with what is already there, and I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? You know, I think what might make this unreasonable is the driveway. It's not very clear whether, what the applicant is proposing for a drive around and where that's going to be and how much space that's going to take. I'm thinking that if he meets the setback, by being 40 feet back, he might have room for a driveway around there, but if he builds 20 feet closer, he's going to be right in the right-of-way. So is it a reasonable request? I'm not certain because he hasn't very clearly told us exactly where the building will be and where the road will be and how the property will be used. So maybe yes, maybe no. I'm going to say no. Anybody else on number 2?
Mr. Chair?
We're all done with your input on this?
All right.
Okay. Anybody else on number 2? Then we'll move on to number 3. Will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? There will be a building there, and that will maintain the essential character of the locality, and that it's, he has a CUP for a storage unit, and he can meet all the setbacks, which will be more in character with that corner of the world. The issuance of the variance, if he were to build what he is proposing tonight, I don't think that would maintain the character of that corner. There's no other building on any of the 4 corners that's that close. There's commercial use on 3 corners, including his corner, even though he's ag, it's commercial use in ag. No setbacks are for a reason, to maintain character. Anybody else on number 3? Okay, number 4 is alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property. Clint?
I kind of agree with what the applicant put in his, when he answered it, is the shape of the setback to the right-of-way, or the road right-of-way, not setback, but the road right-of-way. So if we look at this, there used to be a curve. It never used to be a 90. Years ago, it used to be a curved road, and that's why that setback is the way it is. They moved it to a 90, they kept it. I don't know if the applicant could buy any more of that right-of-way, whatever. But if we really look at just the way that road right-of-way is in that circumstance when they tore that road out, if he would propose what he's doing, what he's proposing today, and it would be the normal road right-of-way, he'd meet all setbacks. So I think his practical difficulty is the extra road right-of-way that they took from a road that was there years ago, that they reconstruction to modern-day roadways. We don't see a lot of turnoffs, big round turnoffs like this road was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whenever they changed that road. I'm old enough to know, I was pretty young when they did it, but it used to be a curved, it wasn't a 90. And that's why that's got a big extra turn. So that's my practical difficulty. If I had to come up with one, I'd agree with what his statement was, is the extra, the weird shape of the road right-of-way that pins in his utilization of his property that he owns. And for him and anybody else moving forward.
Okay, thank you, Clint. Anybody else on number 4, the alleged practical difficulty? again, as in, well, in almost all of these circumstances, when it's the design that is making the necessity of the variance request, I'm going to say it's all about design rather than any unique need here. Use of his land, he's got plenty good use of his land already. It's a very narrow strip. He's, with this addition or a smaller one, he'd be up to 19% impervious surface. I think that's pretty good use of property. He's using about as much as he can. I believe it's all design. I don't think it's anything unique about the property. Okay, anybody else on number 4? Question number 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? John?
If I could repeat exactly what Clint said in his answer to question number 4, I would, and I would like that on the record. This was a Department of Transportation that just didn't update their own design and their own requirements when they did change the road there. So you were able to buy a little bit back on whatever they let you buy back on. And so yeah, this isn't, you didn't create this necessarily as the landowner, or the prior landowner didn't do this. They just didn't update it with their own design.
Okay, thank you, John. Anybody else on number 5? Anybody else on number 5? Okay, on to number 6. Does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic consideration? Marvin?
Well, you might have dug your own hole on this one here, because you stated that you looked at financially how this would benefit you, and you said it over and over, and that's what I heard. Yeah. Is there more? There are more things, but you kind of stated you're doing this for financially, and we stated over and over financially. And that's the way I may have to answer this one for that reason there. Sorry to say that.
Okay, thanks, Marv. Anybody else?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I would agree with what Marv said as far as financial, but a lot of these things, I mean, we're looking at a business here, not just a home. So there's tons of financial gain in any business, whether it be farming, storage buildings, the liquor store across the road. It is gonna be economics, and they're huge, and he's trying to use his land just like if you had a field or a garden, you're gonna use every square inch you possibly could to make as much money as you can off your land. So yes, I agree with that. But, you know, it says here, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economics? Yes, it does. He can't help it that he bought this property. Maybe he could have checked into it a little bit sooner, but things move. But it's, to me, this is just I don't want to say it, but anyways, it's just the way this road right-of-way that the state has, it isn't even consistent with what they did across the road. That's all there just because of the old road being there. They kept it. If you would make it the standard Highway 27, Highway 28 road right-of-way that the state takes, he would meet the setbacks. Plain and simple. So that's my answer to 6.
Okay, thank you, Clint. Anybody else on number 6?
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, it says, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than economic considerations? It doesn't ask, is his specific request, although financially motivated, what's taken us there? So the alleged practical difficulty isn't financial. We established that in question 5 and 4 too. It's the way the land was designed and technically not updated.
Okay. Thank you, John. Anybody else? Okay, we're done answering the questions. Ready to vote? Okay. Is the request in harmony with the general purposes and intent of the Morrison County Land Use Ordinance and Comprehensive Plan? Marvin?
I'm going to have to say no the way I interpret it.
Okay, Brent?
Yes.
Myself is no. Clint
Yes.
and John.
Yes.
Is the applicant proposing to use the property in a reasonable manner not permitted by the land use ordinance? Brent?
Yes.
Myself is no. Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Marvin?
No.
Number 3, will the issuance of the variance maintain the essential character of the locality? Myself is no. Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Marv?
Yes.
And Brent?
Yes.
Okay. Number 4, is the alleged practical difficulty due to circumstances unique to the property? Clint?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Marvin?
No.
Brent?
Yes.
And myself is no. Number 5, is the need for the variance created by actions other than the landowner or prior landowners? John?
Yes.
Marvin?
The way I see the highway, yes.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself is no. Clint?
Yes.
And number 6, does the alleged practical difficulty involve more than just economic considerations? Marvin?
No.
Brent?
Yes.
Myself is no. Clint?
Yes.
And John?
Yes.
Okay, the questions have all been answered to the affirmative. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we grant this variance.
Okay,
Mr. Chair, I will second that motion.
okay, motion has been made and seconded to grant this variance request. All right, we'll proceed to vote on that motion. Is there any discussion on the motion? No discussion on the motion? I'll take a roll vote.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
not to add a little fuel to anything specifically, but can we make it so we can get a firm stake by MnDOT on where that 20 feet starts? So if his building is 145 or 144, wherever that 20 feet is that he's asking for is 20 feet. Can we make that work in this request? Is that reasonable?
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, if he goes to build the building and he pulls a permit, that's what we're gonna do.
Okay.
That's part of the permitting process, we're gonna have MnDOT stake that right of way.
Okay,
And the variance you're giving today is to be 20 feet from the road right of way.
yep,
When you get to the conditional use permit, you might dial in the size of that building, and I would recommend that he dial in the size of that building before the conditional use permit, because you may not be able to get that size building in there and account for that traffic. That is gonna come into play a lot more for that hearing than it will for this one. So what I recommend is that, I mean, you certainly can put that condition on, but that's gonna be part of our process.
if it's gonna
anyway.
happen, I'm not gonna condition it,
Yeah.
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 Okay,
It would
thank you.
It would definitely be in the applicant's best interest to be able to clearly answer the questions that were a little muddy tonight and know exactly what you're going to be
Yeah. Yep.
proposing. Okay. Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. There has been no discussion on the motion. I guess there was a little discussion. Yeah, any more discussion? Okay, I'll take a roll vote. If you're in favor of the motion, say aye. If you're opposed, say nay. Marvin?
Nay.
Brent?
Aye.
Myself is nay. Clint?
Aye.
And John?
Aye.
Okay, 3-2, the motion carries. Your variance request has been granted. I'm not sure what was granted, but something was granted.
Mr. Chair, can I just, for 1 second?
Go ahead, Clint.
I just wanted to make you clear that we voted to give you that 20 feet that you asked for. So now when you come next time, everything has to fit in there.
Yep.
The driveway, everything, so. Okay,
Yep.
just wanted to be clear with that. That's where I was voting on and what I was thinking of, so.
Yep, thanks for clarifying that.
Yep. Yeah, thank
Sure,
you
that's
very much.
how
I'm
we
not
are,
sure
we're all feeling.
when we drew that out, and obviously it wasn't updated in the GIS website before, so I was out there measuring with a tape measure.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Clint.
recommendation to applicant, maybe get back with DOT before you do the next step. Have them actually stake it out, remeasure everything, and come with just a little more
Detailed
precise, detailed plan for the next meeting.
Yep,
Okay.
will do.
Mr. Chair?
Possibly with the help of another party. rather than just yourself
Sure.
measuring it.
Yep, absolutely.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Marvin.
Part of the reason I voted, the reason I did it was because there wasn't a representative from the DOT, and I know there was a letter, but there was a lot of gray area here, and I just was nervous about some of this. So you, like they stated, have everything clearly spelled out to that next step, please.
Sure. Yeah, and I've been in talks with them a lot. I know, like I said, they said anything, I mean, even up to the right of way is fine with them. They're very okay with it. They're just not very easy to get them to show up or a letter or anything from. It's very difficult to get something like that, but I will, yeah, I'll be in contact with them and
Thank you.
make sure we meet everything.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you guys.
All right, next on the agenda, minutes of the previous
Thank
meeting.
you.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the minutes from September 19th.
I'll second that. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, minutes accepted as presented. Any old business, new business?
Mr. Chair, I don't have any.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second that. All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned at 7:29. I didn't hear,